After the wonderful Jacinda Ardern was removed, removed from being Prime Minister of New Zealand, who took her place was a man by the name of Chris Hipkins, who lasted months as the PM, complete and utter weak source. And he promoted the vaccines and reinforced the tyranny under his role alongside Jacinda Ardern when she was in power. And I'm going to show you a video at the end of him literally telling us that the Crown has sovereignty over New Zealand, meaning that New Zealand is still colonised, is still owned by the Crown. And I'm assuming and presuming that Australia is. I mean, I know this, but I haven't actually heard somebody literally tell me. No, and a Prime Minister, well, a soon-to-be Prime Minister either, and former Prime Minister now either, of New Zealand. So let's go down memory lane with this guy. This is July 2021 regarding the vaccines.
I think early next year we'll be in the phase of chasing up people who haven't come forward to get their vaccination or have missed their bookings and so on. So everyone will be able to get a vaccine between now and the end of the year. But of course, and I want every New Zealander to come forward, but human behaviour suggests that there will be some people that we have to actually really go out and look for, and some of that may spill into next year. But our commitment is everyone will have the opportunity to get the vaccine by the end of the year. Everyone will, but I can't say that, that we're not going to have some hesitant people or some people who just haven't come forward that we don't have to go out and find next year.
In terms of the vaccine mandates, I acknowledge that it was a challenging time for people, but they ultimately made their own choices. There was no compulsory vaccination. People made their own choices.
Is any of that going?
I think early next year we'll be in the phase.
Chris Hipkins did forget that it was actually mandatory to get the vaccinations in New Zealand. And I'll show you the video of Jacinda Ardern just as a reminder. In this letter, it states, COVID-19 Public Health Response Act 2020 legislation is changing, and from the 1st of June 2022, it will be mandatory to be vaccinated against COVID-19 SARS-2. Our records show you have not received your first vaccination. This is necessary to keep yourself. So this is like CBDCs. This is like literally just before CBDCs and MyGov or GovID or MyID. This is now they're recording exactly everyone who has been vaccinated and not vaccinated, and literally harassing them, saying it's mandatory and it's illegal not to be vaccinated. COVID Public Health Response Act 2020 legislation has been revised and now includes up to $15,000 fine or 6 months jail time for failing to comply with public health requirements. An example of what we experienced.
No. The notion of also only vaccinated people. Well, yeah, well that'd be good. Maybe there are 100,000 people who could be vaccinated and sit in that stadium. Yeah, but the vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting it or giving it. So you might finish up, they're all vaccinated so they don't get sick, but they add to the spread of the virus amongst the unvaccinated, because you've got to get to the ground, you've got to get home, all of that.
So you basically said
this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, there's two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so yep.
Can you describe this? You were previously hoping not to be able to, not to have to do that, I guess, when we still looked like we could maintain elimination across the whole country. I guess that has now changed because...
Is the video a little bit more of that video, which I'm sure you've all seen. This woman has now been awarded by the Crown under the heir, Prince William, and then you have Chris Hipkins at the end of my video after this saying that New Zealand is owned by the Crown, claims sovereignty over New Zealand, the Crown.
So you basically said this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, there's two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so yep.
Can you describe this? You were previously hoping not to be able to, not to have to do that, I guess, when we still looked like we could maintain elimination across the whole country. I guess that has now changed because...
I think it was less because necessarily of the elimination determining that, and more because we, of course, maintained, and actually we have managed very high vaccination rates generally without the use of certificates. But actually what it's become clear to me is that they're not just a tool to drive up vaccines. They're a tool for confidence. People who have been vaccinated will want to know that they're around other vaccinated people. They want to know that they're in a safe environment. It is a way that we can give confidence to those who are going back into hospitality or events. And so that is something that I think we should offer to people who have been vaccinated, that confidence that we're doing everything we can to keep them safe and that they can come back out and start enjoying those things safely. What do we do if someone refuses to be tested? Well, they can't now. If someone refuses in our facilities to be tested, they have to keep staying. So they won't be able to leave after 14 days. They have to stay on for another 14 days. So it's a pretty good incentive. You either get your tests done and make sure you're cleared, or we will keep you in a facility longer. So I think most people will look at that and say, I'll take the test. What do we do if someone... I heard Dr. Bloomfield at the beginning of the week mentioned the side effects that people experience with vaccines, which we all have come to expect, a sign that the vaccine's doing what it should. He did note that they appear to be of a lesser degree for the booster than, for instance, say the second. So if that's cause for anyone's hesitancy, I thought it was a notable observation from our Director General of Health. I heard Dr. Bloomfield at the beginning of the week mentioned the side effects that people experience with vaccines, which we all have come to expect, a sign that the vaccine's doing what it should. He did note that they appear to be of a lesser degree for the booster than, for instance, say the second. So if that's cause for anyone's hesitancy, I thought it was a notable observation from our Director General of Health. Just means that they won't get sick and they won't die. You know, that's what the vaccine is for. Just means that they won't get sick and they won't die. You know, that's what the vaccine is for. Just means that
after Ardern was in charge of that dictatorship to slaughter her own people. She then she got a new censorship role. So then she moved forward to censorship. So similar to Todge and Nut, they promoted the vaccine rollout and called it equity for Africa, for all the Commonwealth nations, because, they're still representing the Commonwealth. And then they also promoted misinformation against COVID vaccines. And the shaming of people not getting the vaccines, and also of talking about the side effects of the vaccines as misinformation. And she gets a censorship role at Harvard in the USA, across the Five Eyes Alliance alongside, in the UK, Earthshot under Prince William. Amazing, isn't it? So she works for the Crown. She gets awarded a damehood, which is now a perpetual lifetime of protection and wealth for what she's been able to achieve, starting with the dictatorship. And now she is protected for life. But you and I, not so much. I'm trying to press play. Come on, man.
That in the midst of what is a global issue, as you would expect, there are a number of rumours that circulate. I am present on social media, I see it myself. I cannot go around and individually dismiss every single rumour I see on social media, as tempted as I might be. So instead I want to send a clear message to the New Zealand public. We will share with you the most up-to-date information daily. You can trust us as a source of that information. You can also trust the Director General of Health and the Ministry of Health. For that information, do feel free to visit at any time to clarify any rumour you may hear, covid19.govt.nz. Otherwise, dismiss anything else. We will continue to be your single source of truth. We will provide New Zealand that in the midst of what is...
Yeah, so that's her censoring the public as well as killing them, as murdering her own people. Here is the video I wanted to show you. Chris Hipkins literally stating, the ex-Prime Minister after Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, saying that the Crown has sovereignty of New Zealand.
Well, no.
Did Māori cede sovereignty?
Now, don't mind his word salad. Just go with this statement.
Did Māori cede sovereignty?
Well, no, actually, that's pretty clear. If you follow the various court rulings over time, if you follow all of the academic research, if you actually follow the treaty settlement process, the answer to that question is no. That doesn't mean that the Crown doesn't have sovereignty now, but Māori didn't cede sovereignty in signing the treaty. That's pretty clear. That doesn't mean that the Crown doesn't have sovereignty now, but Māori didn't cede sovereignty in signing the treaty. That's pretty doesn't have sovereignty now, but Māori didn't cede sovereignty. That question is no. That doesn't mean that the Crown doesn't have sovereignty now, but Māori didn't cede sovereignty.
That's all you need to know. My job is done. Yeah. Yeah. Is Jacinda Ardern declaring free speech a weapon of war?
This week we launched an initiative alongside companies and non-profits to help improve research
At the UN.
and understanding of how a person's online experiences are curated by automated processes. This will also be important in understanding more about mis- and disinformation online, a challenge that we must, as leaders, address. As leaders, we're rightly concerned that even the most light touch approaches to disinformation could be misinterpreted as being hostile to the values of free speech that we value so highly. But while I cannot tell you today what the answer is to this challenge, I can say with complete certainty that we cannot ignore it. To do so poses an equal threat to the norms we all value. After all, how do you successfully end a war if people are led to believe the reason for its existence is not only legal but noble? How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists? How do you ensure the human rights of others are upheld when they are subjected to hateful and dangerous rhetoric and ideology? The weapons may be different, but the goals of those who perpetuate them is often the same. to cause chaos and reduce the ability of others to defend themselves. But we have an opportunity here to ensure that these particular weapons of war do not become an established part of warfare. We are facing many battles on many fronts, but there is cause for optimism, because for every new...
Who is we? The Crown? Because you're representing and you work on behalf of the Crown, so who is we? Not us plebs.
Every new weapon we face, there is a new tool to overcome it. For every attempt to push the world into chaos is a collective conviction to bring us back to order. We have the means. We just need the collective will.
Which will be forced upon us like she did for COVID and the vaccines. Here is the post itself today, 17th, October the 17th of the damehood of Jacinda Ardern.
A huge honour, I feel really humbled by...
The Right Honourable Dame Jacinda Ardern for services to the state.
It's a huge honour, I feel really humbled by the chance to be here with my family, and really I see it as an acknowledgement of them and of every person I worked with and of everyone who supported me, and that includes a very large number of New Zealanders. I remember some years ago now, Prince William telling me about the idea of the Earthshot Prize, and then to see what he's created. It's not just a prize. For me, it's the movement that I think is so important, about telling every single person out there that we don't have to wait for this catastrophe to happen to us, that there are things we can do and that are being done.
This woman is an actress. Every time she speaks, it's insincere. Every time she says something, it's an agenda. It's the Crown agenda. It's the globalist agenda. And now we all have it in one video. Thanks, guys.